What if your garden could become a hummingbird magnet, drawing ruby-throated hummingbirds every day from early spring to late fall? What if a single planting decision could transform a barren border into a buzzing sanctuary? Here are 16 perennial plants that prove this is possible. Number 16. Spigelia marilandica, Indian pink. This delicate-looking native produces scarlet tubes tipped with a vivid yellow star that match the ruby-throated hummingbird's bill length with uncanny precision. USDA zones 5 to 9 readily accept it, and when sited in partial shade with morning sun and afternoon protection, the plant establishes a clump that can be divided each spring. A single $14 plant can generate a colony worth $140 in just 4 growing seasons. The most common error is planting it in full afternoon heat, which forces the blooms to collapse within weeks and steals an entire June hummingbird window. Position it where the sun is filtered by taller shrubs or a light canopy, and the hummingbirds will return to the same colony at the same time each morning, an almost clockwork feeding schedule documented by university researchers across the Southeast. Number 15. Salvia guaranitica, black and blue. This perennial sage flashes cobalt-blue tubes against a jet-black calyx that acts as a visual amplifier, making the flower visible from distances most blossoms never reach. Hardy in zones 7 to 11, and, with generous mulching, a reliable perennial in zone 5, it costs about $12 per plant and can naturalize into a colony worth $96 after 3 seasons. The black calyx remains ornamental after each bloom, providing a second visual season that garden centers rarely mention. The mistake most growers make is cutting the plant back to the ground in autumn without leaving a protective mulch layer over the crown in colder zones, which often kills the plant. Leave a mulch blanket in place each fall, and the sage will thicken its calyx, widen its colony, and attract hummingbirds year after year. Number 14. Cuphea micropetala, candy corn. Often dismissed as a novelty annual, this bicolored orange-yellow plant actually produces nectar continuously from early June through the first frost. It thrives in zones 7 to 11 when grown in containers and can survive winter indoors down to zone 6. One $12 plant can become a container collection worth $96 after 2 seasons. The common mistake is treating it as a disposable annual and pulling it before overwintering the container. Overwinter the pot in a frost-free space, and the same corner of your patio will draw hummingbirds back day after day, providing 2 distinct feeding sessions, morning and late afternoon, because the nectar replenishes quickly enough to reward repeat visits. Number 13. Baptisia australis, purple smoke. This deep-rooted native sends smoky purple spikes 3 feet skyward, pulling hummingbirds from as far as 50 feet the moment the first flowers open. It is hardy from zones 3 to 9 and can dominate a border for 2 decades without division. A single $18 plant can anchor a position that, after 4 seasons, is worth $180 in nursery value. The taproot reaches 2 feet deep by the 3rd season, making the plant drought-proof and an excellent weed suppressor. Dividing the plant too early disrupts this root system, setting it back 2 full seasons. Allow the taproot to develop fully before splitting, and you'll enjoy taller, denser spikes and a hummingbird haven that lasts for generations. Number 12. Physostegia virginiana, obedient plant, vivid. This fast-spreading native sends underground runners that fill a 5-foot gap with rose-pink spikes in a single season. Each flower pivots on its stem, earning the common name obedient plant because it holds any position you move it to. Hardy in zones 3 to 9, it is one of the most cold-tolerant hummingbird perennials on the list. One $12 plant can produce division stock worth $100 after 2 seasons. The typical oversight is planting without a root barrier, allowing runners to invade lawns and neighboring beds. Install a simple barrier at planting, and the plant will create a permanent, self-sustaining colony that supplies hummingbirds with nectar each June without additional expense. Number 11. Chelone lyonii, hot lips. While most perennials peak in June, hot lips holds back until August, then erupts with deep rose-pink blossoms that perfectly match the hummingbird's bill. It thrives in moist, shaded corners that many gardeners abandon and it tolerates poorly drained soil better than almost any other native. Zones 3 to 8 are ideal. A $14 plant can become a colony worth $112 after 3 seasons. The mistake most growers make is planting it in full afternoon sun, which collapses the bloom before August arrives. Plant it in a shady, damp spot, and you'll keep a hummingbird feeding station active long after neighboring borders have gone quiet. Number 10. Huchera caramel. The warm, caramel amber foliage of this ornamental foliage plant stops hummingbirds mid-flight even before the first coral pink flower opens. The foliage deepens in color through summer heat rather than fading, providing a second dramatic visual peak in August. Hardy in zones 4 to 9, it tolerates both sun and partial shade. A $16 plant can divide into 4 plants worth $64 after 3 seasons. Planting in poorly drained soil leads to crown rot and eliminates the plant before its second June. Ensure well-drained soil with the crown just above the surface, and the caramel foliage will intensify each summer while the colony multiplies into a valuable nursery stock. Number 9. Agastache blue boa. Often labeled simply as hyssop, this plant produces violet-blue spikes that rise 30 inches above aromatic gray-green foliage. High Country Gardens trials document it as one of the longest continuous hummingbird feeding spikes, running from June straight through September without deadheading. It also deters deer and rabbits while attracting hummingbirds, a rare dual function. Hardy in zones 5 to 10, it tolerates drought once established. One $14 plant can become a colony worth $112 after 3 seasons. Planting in heavy clay or poorly drained soil leads to root rot and destroys the crown before the second June. Use sharply drained soil, cut back hard in early spring, and the spikes will return taller and denser each year, delivering 4 uninterrupted months of hummingbird nectar. Number 8. Vernonia lettermanii, iron butterfly. Named the 2026 Perennial Plant of the Year, this deep purple native forms a perfectly mounded colony that requires no staking, deadheading, or division for a decade. Hummingbirds treat it as a daily feeding destination from July through September. Hardy in zones 4 to 9, it thrives in average to dry soils across the full American range. One $14 plant can expand into a colony worth $112 after 3 seasons. Over-fertilizing with rich compost or high nitrogen makes the stems floppy and destroys the compact form that the Perennial Plant Association defines as its hallmark. Keep soil lean, avoid heavy fertilization, and the mounded colony will persist, delivering a striking purple display and a steady stream of hummingbird visitors. Number 7. Liatris pycnostachia, prairie blazing star. This native prairie spike blooms top-down, the opposite of nearly every other prairie spike, causing hummingbirds to return twice per visit as fresh florets open progressively lower each day. The rosy purple spikes can reach 4 feet, drawing hummingbirds across the entire yard in a single visual sweep. Hardy in zones 3 to 9, its corm survives zone 3 winters without protection, drawing from deep energy reserves to push taller spikes for up to 20 years. One $12 corm can naturalize into a colony worth $96 after 3 seasons. Planting in heavy clay or poorly drained soil causes the corm to rot before the second July bloom, eliminating 2 daily hummingbird feeding sessions. Use sharply drained soil and leave the corm undisturbed, and the spikes will return taller each July, providing 2 hummingbird visits per visit. Number 6. Lobelia cardinalis, cardinal flower. This scarlet native is the highest-ranked hummingbird perennial in eastern North America. Its vivid red spikes matching the ruby-throated hummingbird's vision so closely that birds feed before any other plant catches their eye. The flowers rise 4 feet above deep green foliage and self-seed naturally into expanding colonies, widening the border without division. Hardy in zones 3 to 9, it thrives in moist borders and stream edges. One $12 plant can self-seed into a colony worth $96 after 3 seasons. Planting in dry soil arrests self-seeding and locks the colony at a single plant, depriving you of an expanding scarlet display. Keep the soil consistently moist, and the colony will multiply, creating a permanent hummingbird magnet. Number 5. Zauschneria californica, Catalina California fuchsia. This late-season perennial opens blazing orange-red tubes from July through October, providing the longest uninterrupted hummingbird feeding window on the list. Its silver-gray foliage creates a dramatic contrast with the fiery flowers, attracting hummingbirds during the late migration period. Hardy in zones 8 to 10 when grown outdoors, it can be container-grown and overwintered from zone 5 upward. One $16 plant can become a container collection worth $128 after 2 seasons. The common mistake is leaving the container outdoors in zone 5 winters, which kills the plant. Bring the container indoors before the first frost, and the plant will return each July, delivering 14 weeks of continuous hummingbird nectar. Number 4. Salvia microphylla hot lips. This sage's bicolor red and white flowers shift their color ratio with temperature. Pure red in cool morning air, half red/half white by midday, giving hummingbirds a visually different flower on the same plant twice daily. The blooms open continuously from June through frost, never requiring deadheading or division. Hardy in zones 7 to 10, it can be container-grown and overwintered from zone 5 upward. One $12 plant can become a container collection worth $96 after 2 seasons. Many gardeners discard it as a tender annual in autumn. Instead, overwinter the container indoors, and the plant will return each June, prompting 2 distinct hummingbird visits per day. Number 3. Penstemon dark towers. This beard tongue's deep bronze-purple foliage triggers hummingbird curiosity before the first pale pink tubular flower opens, creating a 2-stage attraction that begins with new spring growth. The foliage retains its deep bronze hue throughout the season, while the pale pink tubes deliver nectar continuously from June through August without deadheading. Hardy in zones 4 to 8, it tolerates drought once established. One $14 plant can divide into a colony worth $112 after 3 seasons. Planting in heavy clay or poorly drained soil leads to crown rot and eliminates both foliage drama and hummingbird visits. Use sharply drained soil, and the bronze foliage will intensify through summer heat, while the pink tubes provide uninterrupted nectar. Number 2. Cuphea ignea, David Verity cigar plant. This warm zone perennial produces orange-red cigar-shaped tubes that open continuously from June through the first frost, creating the densest single-plant hummingbird feeding station on the list. The tubes bloom simultaneously, allowing multiple hummingbirds to feed at once without competition. Hardy in zones 9 to 11, it can be container-grown and overwintered from zone 6 upward. One $12 plant can expand into a collection worth $96 after 2 seasons. The typical error is leaving the container outdoors in winter zones where it cannot survive. Bring the container indoors before the first frost, and the plant will return each June with the same dense feeding display. Number 1. Zauschneria californica, Catalina California fuchsia, relisted for emphasis. Even though it appears earlier, this plant caps the list because its late-season bloom fills the hummingbird calendar when every other border has gone silent. The bright orange-red tubes attract ruby-throated hummingbirds from July through October, providing a reliable fuel source for migrating birds. Its container-grown habit makes it adaptable to a wide range of climates, and careful overwintering guarantees a return each year. One $16 plant can generate a collection worth $128 after 2 seasons, making it a high-value, low-maintenance addition to any hummingbird sanctuary. What if you could turn every empty border into a hummingbird haven simply by choosing the right perennials? These 16 plants demonstrate that a thoughtful selection, proper placement, and a few simple maintenance tricks can lock in hummingbird visits for decades. Plant them according to your USDA zone, avoid the common mistakes highlighted for each species, and watch ruby-throated hummingbirds fill your garden from early June until the first frost. If this script sparked a new idea for your garden, please like, subscribe, and support the channel so we can keep sharing zone-accurate, money-smart gardening knowledge.